Okay, we're on to types of long-term memories. So as we know, the multi-score model active in the Schifrin, 1968, just had long-term memory as a kind of unitary box. However, there are different types of long-term memories. So some of the long-term memories include explicit memories where we have conscious access or conscious recall. It could be on doing a certain task or something like that, or driving a car. When you're learning, you're consciously remembering what to do. Implicit memories will be unconscious recall, maybe riding a bike, tying your shoelaces, which is basically linked to a procedural memory, where you do things without remembering how to do it, you just do it automatically. Explicit, where you've got conscious recall, includes things like episodic memories, which are episodes and events, birthdays, weddings, things like that. And semantic memories, where something means something to you. Um, so maybe remembering something about a pop star or something that kind of means something to you, like maybe the birthday on the same day or something like that. Okay, so there are lots of different types of long-term memories. There's also different parts of the brain that are involved. One of the key structures in the brain is the hippocampus, which functions as a memory gateway. A lot of the research studies highlight the hippocampus as a sort of central part. So, for example, in HM, a case study where the person had surgery for epilepsy, he had a bilateral hippocampus removed, and it left him unable to retain new memories for more than a few minutes. It was okay pre-surgery, but post-surgery he couldn't remember. Clive Wearing had a viral infection affecting his brain and damaging the hippocampus. He could play the piano, which is procedural memory, but his short-term memory was horrendous, lasting sometimes up to a few seconds. And other parts of his long-term memory were damaged, like he couldn't remember what his kids were doing, say, or and every time he woke up, it like he's woke up from being unconscious. He reported things like he's never seen a doctor before, things like that. Okay, so procedural memory is based in the cerebellum, which is at the back of the brain. It looks a bit like a walnut-shaped structure. So that's things like motor skills, riding a bike, tying shoelaces. Now, priming is where you can be shown a word, say for visual priming, say the word sky, after being presented with the word blue, and that makes it easier to recognize the word sky. So you can prime, so you expose someone to a stimulus, and that influences the response on a subsequent stimulus. Now, there is a research by Tulving using PET scans, which is positron emission tomography. And this is where they inject you with a radioactive tracer. This then travels to the brain, and the glucose, whichever part of the brain is being activated, will light up. It looks a bit like a heat map. So Tulving basically got participants. It's like a small case study, really. He was one of, and he got them to think of either an episodic memory or a semantic memory. And he found that different parts of the brain are activated depending on which memory you're thinking of. So the left prefrontal cortex was involved in semantic memories, and the right prefrontal cortex was involved in episodic memories. So this is sort of scientific evidence using brain scans that different parts of the brain are activated for different types of memories. Um, Now, sometimes understanding the different types of long-term memories is quite a good thing for understanding how to help people who have strokes or those being rehabilitated after injuries, because certain parts of the brain can take over functions that damaged parts can't do anymore. Um, And the case studies offer an in-depth insight into memory problems, which is where we understand most of the brain from when things go wrong with it. So this is the case study of Clive Wearing. It's quite a well-known case. Probably the worst case of amnesia ever, I'd say. But his procedural memory is okay, which is a sort of long-term memory, but he didn't have episodic memory. And if you look at the brain and the structures, the neural correlates, helps us to understand how, say, the hippocampus is linked to memory, and also the basal ganglia for procedural memory. So the hippocampus for episodic memories and the basal ganglia for procedural memories. Now, sometimes just because the hippocampus is damaged, and someone can still play the piano, that sort of suggests that the procedural memory is kind of in a separate structure to other memories. So this is the focus on the cerebellum, which is thought to be involved with procedural memories. So this just gives you kind of an overview of the different types of long-term memories, some of the brain structures involved, and we have some reading and things you can do as well to help you understand this long-term memory section.